Hello. Welcome back. Ben and I are back from the show floor. Day 2.
What? We actually never left. We just shut off the lights and we stayed motionless in the studio.
Like Dan Stevens in The Guest.
Yes, Isla, that's exactly what I was thinking.
I knew it. I knew you were thinking
I
that.
knew
When he just shuts down and like waits for the next day to happen.
No, I wasn't. I don't even know what that is.
It's a great movie.
I talked to so many people. So many people I can't even remember it all. It's like every once in a while, like I get a flashback. It's like, oh yeah, I talked to that person too.
Do you know who I talked to?
Who?
I talked to Mitch about Street Fighter.
Nice.
Hey.
I was there.
Yeah.
I saw that. Yeah, we played. I've got a lineup of 13 games tonight. We actually played 2 more that we can't talk about yet. It's just like, why?
Yeah, I can't wait for you guys
we
to
want
see
to
those
talk
Dragon's
about
Dogma 2
both of
impressions.
these games right now. We gotta wait. We're gonna like shoot it right after this because when we can talk about it is not that far in the future. But anyways, look forward to those. We did play a bunch of stuff today. Mostly a lot of like smaller, creative indie stuff.
Yep.
And that's kind of where I'll start is with my Day of the Devs appointment, which in some ways is like simultaneously both a highlight and low light for me. It's a highlight because of the cool games I got to check out. It's a low light because of the way that they arranged the appointments.
I always hate that. I always hate when it's like, this game is cool and I know I'm not experiencing it in a good
Right.
way. Yeah.
So basically there were 8 games and I had 1 hour and I didn't get to pick and choose. It's just like sit down, developer starts to talk to me about their game. I try to play it and then person comes and like, all right, move on to the next one.
Yeah,
and so it's like
my opponent
6
was actually like
minutes
that too.
per game.
Yeah.
So there were some where I think like they were still trying to explain things to me while I was getting dragged away. But so aside from that, the cool games. But it was funny because like I didn't have time to like take notes until afterwards, and I like had to sit down and like just like dump my brain so I wouldn't forget anything. Because by the time I had gotten to game 7, I had forgotten what game 1 even was going on. But yeah, first one. A little to the left.
Yeah.
Definitely a highlight from the
I'm really
showcase.
pulling for this game.
Yeah.
I have the demo downloaded on my PC.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I'll probably get to spend more time with it at home.
Yeah.
Although I did get to, talk about it with the devs
You'll get to go further to the left.
further to the left. Yeah. So basically, this is a puzzle game about organization and just that satisfaction of putting things in their right place.
Yeah. Good Radiohead song.
Yeah, so the very first puzzle, yeah, that's them. The very first puzzle that they have.
Did you get to talk to them?
Yeah.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's one of the cool things with Day of the Devs is like almost every one of the people that you see in the Day of the Devs showcase was there demoing the game, and the first thing that you get almost doesn't even look like a puzzle. They say like a lot of people think that they're still looking at a loading screen because it's just that tilted painting of the cat,
Oh.
and you just have to like adjust it to straighten it.
Gotcha.
And then we saw a lot of them in the trailer, but you organize books by size. You peel stickers off of fruit, and you have to like rotate the fruit to find. There's just an enormous number of stickers on there, but the peeling is like it feels good. Like there's this nice just snap to it when you
That's just
pop
a
it off.
funny statement.
Oh, the bread puzzle thing. They actually gave us a physical bread puzzle. It was in the goodie bag.
Oh, cool.
And then there's one where you put cat toys in the basket. And again, like there's just like really good sound design to like some of them would squeak and some of them would kind of rattle when you move them. And
It's like ASMR the game.
yeah, exactly. That sound design was definitely a highlight. I wish I'd seen that NES one. I wonder if that's in the Steam demo. And then they just say that they're tapping into just sort of that absurdity of structure. Some puzzles have multiple solutions, and you'll see like when you complete them, you'll see stars. So if there's only one solution, there'll only be 1 star in a puzzle. If there's 2 solutions, you'll see 2 stars, so you can go back and do it again. But they were saying with me, and I heard some other people I talked to about it say this too, that because of ways that we like our first instinct of how we were going to organize those puzzles.
Yeah.
That they had, it's like, oh, well, we'll actually make that another solution. Because it makes sense to them. It's just a different way of thinking about it, a different way of organizing it.
Yeah.
So like with the book puzzle in particular, they would count the two solutions to be like from like tallest to smallest or smallest to tallest,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But what I ended up doing was like I was putting the tallest ones in the middle and going out, and so it's going smaller to the edges, and they like that one too. I'm not sure what's happening. Do we have a buzz?
It's like a weird clicking.
Weird clicking.
Very subtle, so it's not really.
Oh, so
Is it no one's like moving around or shaking or anything? No.
I was leg bouncing. That might be it.
that might be it.
Maybe.
Maybe. So yeah.
We'll A/B test the leg bounce.
So they say that no puzzles in the story repeat, which is nice. But they do have this thing called the Daily Tidy, which is sort of like procedurally generated puzzles that are kind of based on the ones in the main game. And there'll be a new one every day. They kind of vary by person, and you'll get like little badges for doing the Daily Tidy. The next one that I saw is Bear and Breakfast.
Yeah.
And man, you want to talk about a game that suffers from being shoved into 6 minutes.
Yeah.
So I was like partway through a tutorial. So you basically, you go to your crafting table, you start to like drag to make the bedroom, you put a bed in it, and then there's like a mission giver, like a little otter there that's telling you what to do next. Move phone away from mic cables, maybe. Yeah, okay. Do that. And then I also had to make like a front desk and it's just like a shed at this point. Like it could barely. What's interesting is like when you make the bedroom, like it can be as large as small or as you want it. It just basically has to have a bed in it at first. And then.
Was it pretty intuitive to do all that stuff?
Yeah. Well, she was walking me through the menus because there was like a lot of what felt like a bit of menu overload, but again, it's because you're just sitting down with this thing with like no time to think. And then there's some like real funny tongue-in-cheek dialogue. One of the like main characters kind of guiding you is like this inflatable shark. It's like by like an old like trailer home or something like that.
Yeah, I think you see him in the.
Yeah, I think you do. And there's like just like a lot of talk about like they don't trust humans.
Correct.
They're kind of skeptical of things. And then and then once you have a front desk, then you can kind of accept guest reservations. And then when you accept a reservation, then you have a little.
I heard it.
You heard it?
Yeah.
Swap to this one.
Swap to this one?
Yeah.
Okay. Checkity, Mikey checkity. Hello. Am I clicking? Am I making weird noises? How are we doing?
All right, keep going.
Keep going. Yeah, it probably weren't turned on at that point. So here we go. Watching that bear. Look at that. That's a nice looking spot he's got there.
This whole game
Still
is nice
doing it.
Still doing it.
Very weird.
Huh. What? And we didn't have this problem earlier today.
Correct.
Phone is far away. Yeah, there's the inflatable shark guy. Well,
Just keep going.
I guess I'll keep going. We'll have new audio issues every stream. And then, there's materials and cash and stuff to clean up. Not cash to clean up. Trash to clean up. I'm getting bamboozled by everything going on at the same time. But yeah, so that's kind of what you do. You just kind of drag, and then you have to put a door on it, and then you have to put a bed in it. And then there's where you get the guest requests. And then they have like comfort, hygiene, decoration ratings that they're requesting. So I think basically like after you accept that, then you have to sort of like work on making your room to their liking. But I didn't get to see that because I had to move on to the next game. But before I move on to the next game, let's get one of yours in, Ben. Tower of Fantasy.
Yes. So I want to say shout out to the guy who was demoing this because he was super nice, very chill. I just joined the team with Tower of Fantasy, so shout out to that guy. But when I pulled up to Tower of Fantasy, this was a legitimate thought that I had. I was like, oh, like he must just be in between appointments, like he must be doing his Genshin Impact dailies.
Oh.
Like cool, like smoke him if you got him. And then I was like, oh no, wait, this isn't Genshin Impact. This is Tower of Fantasy. But like, I wanted to like lean over to the guy and be like, you guys are gonna get sued. Like
Wow.
This is just like everything about it looks like Genshin Impact. I mean, like the way that you climb, the way the environment looks, like top to bottom. If I said like, here's this Genshin Impact screenshot, I bet I could fool a lot of people. And so that was very strange, but I guess it gives you a good shorthand for what the game is like, right? So if you've ever played Genshin Impact, it very much has that feel to it, both in terms of like you can climb on anything, a la Breath of the Wild, and combat feels similar too, although unlike Genshin Impact where you're switching between different characters that each have their own weapons and playstyles, here you're switching between different weapons. So like I had like a flame scythe and a bow and these large circular discs, and each of these weapons does a different damage type, and different enemies are weak to different types of damage. Very similar to Genshin Impact as well. But yeah, the combat was very fast and fluid and fun. And if you perfectly dodge, you get this cool time bubble that kind of goes over everything, where everything slows down, so you can just wail away.
Which time? Kind of
yes, like
oh
sort
yeah,
of an
I see the Genshin now.
Yeah,
Here
so
we
now
go.
once you get kind of into the environments, obviously like more futuristic than Genshin, but and this is the time bubble I was talking about in the footage that you're seeing right now. It's funny though, like when you go to like I was in like a beach area that looked very Genshin, because this looks admittedly like pretty different and pretty sci-fi, but when it comes to the area that I was in, it definitely caught me by surprise for sure. But the one gameplay criticism that I would say that I asked them, I was like, is there a lock-on? And they said no. And it definitely felt like there should be one. Like I felt like combat would be a little bit cleaner with a lock-on. So that was kind of weird. But yeah, it was fun. It's just I think it's got tough competition competing against something that is so well established. The other cool thing worth mentioning though is that you have different vehicles that you can utilize. So you have like a jetpack, which obviously launches you up in the air. You have like this like crystal hoverboard, and you can go on water, and that was pretty fun to move around in. And then you can also, and it seemed to have a pretty long cooldown, but you can also summon a mech and get in that and fire a machine gun. And so that was pretty cool as well. So yeah, it looks pretty good. It felt pretty good, but was so derivative of Genshin that I was like, okay. But I only played for a little bit, so maybe the more time I spent with it, the more differences that I would see.
For sure. The next one I got to play, I think might be one of my highlights of the show.
Ooh.
And also,
I think I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah, it's also like with the Day of the Dev stuff, it's interesting because like some things like raised up for me based on what I saw in the showcase, and others like went lower down, and one that raised up for me a lot just by seeing it and playing it and talking to the developer is Birth.
Not what I was expecting. Okay, cool.
So this is it's a very visual, like just very big detailed graphics, and it's a puzzle game where they don't really do much to guide you. You just kind of like look at the screen and start clicking on things and sort of figure out what to do. And so like the What's interesting, you know how we were just talking about behind the frame on Frame Trap, and I was talking about going through that routine
Yeah.
of like, okay, you put the cassette player and then you make your breakfast and
Yep.
you pour your coffee.
Yep.
So it's funny because the exact same sequence was at the start of this, and I kind of mentioned it. It's like, have you played Behind the Frame? And she was like, yeah, I have. I really like that game. And like,
Okay.
she was like, maybe did I subconsciously
Yeah.
put this in
Yeah.
there?
That's so funny.
Um, but and then once you've kind of gone through the morning routine, it's cool to have you sort of like looking at the bathroom mirror, and that's sort of how you customize your character. And as we saw in the trailer, like the characters in this game all have like these big bird skulls. It's kind of like the Khonshu Moon Knight esque kind of thing, and you. Yeah, so you can change the color of your skull. You can change the color and the style of your outfit. You can change some of the jewelry and things that you're wearing. And then you start getting into these different puzzles. And like one of the first ones is it's very simple where you're just sort of like matching up symbols, but every symbol that you match up like kind of continues part of diary entry
Oh.
of basically explaining the premise of like you're going to collect these bones and organs to sort of create a companion for yourself, and then oh yeah, the customization was there real quick, and yeah, so the first one you do is a spine where you like slot in like different vertebra to complete the spine, and then you start going around town and checking out these different environments and figuring out what puzzles and things that you complete there. And I went into like this coffee shop, and there was like this character there that had like a string of like eyeballs hanging from threads. And if you go around and do different puzzles in the coffee shop, like you would find more eyeballs. And one of them, like you had to like put something in like this patron's coffee cup. But first, to activate the machine, you had to like solve like a jigsaw puzzle that was just a basic big jigsaw puzzle, and then you had all of these different buttons of things that would just start pouring out, and if you drag the coffee cup under them, then like the physics and stuff would start flowing. But yeah, again, there's like all these kind of like creepy things like spiders and buttons and teeth
Oh
and
my.
and so you had to like kind of look around the environment to sort of figure out, I was like, okay, what does this character want in their coffee cup? And then once you did that, then you were rewarded with an eyeball, and then once you found all the eyeballs for the other character, then you were rewarded with a bone. So
Really
that,
making you earn your character
yeah,
customization.
yeah. Then that's one of the simple ones there, where you're just like, there's just an eyeball and a gumball machine. There's the coffee cup. Um, so yeah, so it's just again it feels a lot like A Little to the Left in the sense that it's just these very big, visually interesting puzzles.
Yeah.
And there's the person that wants the eyeballs.
Just creepier.
Just creepier. Yeah, but at the same time, it's like she doesn't really feel like it's all that creepy because she's saying that like she's worked for doctors and things like that, and so
Right.
like just like the I think she said something like having comfort in her own mortality or something along those lines. And she's been working on this game.
That sounds like a very indie game dev thing to say.
She was talking like she's been working on this game for like 8 months.
Oh, wow. Very quick.
And it's coming out later this year, and she just got a Switch dev kit, and so she's like, I'm gonna figure out how to put it on Switch, and so
Nice.
hopefully it won't be too much longer for that.
Wow. Shout out to her. Like, that's so impressive. Just like all the art and everything. And the puzzle design, like 8 months, like that's ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah, and similarly, like it doesn't seem like puzzles are gonna repeat. You just have a whole bunch of very different, unique things to mess around with and figure out how to make work. The next one is sort of the opposite in terms of dev time. Animal Well, which he's been working on for over 5 years, and this is the very pixely Metroidvania game, which in
Yeah.
the showcase he was saying that he was talking about like wanting to do more with pixel art than just retro, right? So like wanting to have like more detail, more effects, and you can see like the reflection in the water that's pretty present throughout. There's some lighting effects that get applied per pixel and that kind of thing. And you play as this weird little round thing that comes out of a flower, and you're just left to explore and figure out how to move forward. What was interesting is there was one point early on where like I saw like the shape of a hill and kind of like the patterns on it. And,
Did
like,
you run up that hill?
the waterfall? I did not. I did hear more Kate Bush today. But the but it was like
My
this.
mic was
This
on.
reminds me of like Super Mario Brothers 2. And he's
Yeah.
like, I'm so glad that you said that because this whole game is kind of inspired by like Super Mario Brothers 2 and like the idea of being in this sort of bizarre like otherworldly dreamscape and building that out as like a full Metroidvania rather than like just standard platforming levels.
Right.
So that was a fun little detail. And then yeah, there's a lot of ladder climbing. I think that's one thing that maybe bothered me a little bit in just like the very small amount of time I played. Is like it could take a while to climb up a ladder, but you can fall very quickly.
Sure.
And so, and they're also like you don't like stick to the center of the ladder, so there'd be times where like I might be a little off center and I'd have to like move over to the left or right
Yeah.
because
That feeling
I would hit like a ceiling tile or something.
that feeling will only be exacerbated if, in classic Metroidvania fashion, you have to kind of go back to the same areas
Right.
repeatedly.
But yeah, and one thing we just saw in the trailer here is there's firecrackers that you pick up.
The effects seem really neat.
Yeah, and so there are these ghosts that will kind of come fly over you and then fly down toward you. And so when you're going up the ladder, you just basically get killed by that ghost. So you need to like get rid of the ghost, and the firecrackers is how you just basically scare them off to fight the dark with the light. And then there's telephones that are sort of your checkpoints. That's how you save. There's a map as we saw, and then I also like picked up like a map marker at one point, but it was like an X just like in the void. I didn't have that part of the map yet. And then there's one point where there's like a kind of a bigger creature that I had to like jump on top of to get to a ledge that had a chest that had a key that let me in to another area. There's also another door that opened where you had to like click 3 different buttons in an area. And yeah, just kind of like trying to figure out how to get to those buttons because at first it seemed like one of them is like, wait, I don't know how to get under this to get to a passage because it was like under another platform. And so that's one of the things that's interesting is that with just the tininess of the pixels and the detail, like sometimes passages are just sort of hidden just because you have to like look really closely at a space. And then once you go through, then it kind of like opens up, it's like a darkness that then becomes a passage that you see.
Did he explain why you had Picross DS in the background?
No, he didn't. He did say in there that there was a puzzle in the trailer, so I have to
Yes.
think that has something to do with it. Oh yeah, and that was one of the other things, right? That he was talking about. This game has puzzles that he wants people to maybe never figure out for years.
Right. But I really love that type of approach because I think it's so neat when communities form around games
Yeah.
because like games like people burn through games so fast these days that if you can have something where like you're talking about it and trying to figure it out, I think that's genuinely exciting.
Yeah, and definitely a game that like I would have played so much more of.
Sure.
Just
Yeah.
really dig in.
I
more
very
than
much had a
6
game like
minutes.
that today. Yeah.
Yeah.
2 actually.
Yeah. We'll get to your next one then. Metal Hellsinger.
Bro.
We were wondering how
Bro.
you feel about it
Bro.
because of BPM.
Bro! Oh, Metal Hellsinger. Okay, so as I said a couple days ago, I was worried about Metal Hellsinger just because I didn't have a great experience with BPM. I didn't even get to finish the demo, and so what I played is available publicly, and so I can go home and play more of it, which I very much want to do because I had a great time. I would say both in terms of presentation and in the sense of control that I had, I was extremely satisfied. So, talking in terms of presentation, right? Just visually, very gothic, very metal, which you would expect, right? That's pretty obvious. But I also like how visible the enemies are, which is important when you're trying to stay on the beat, right?
Yeah.
And so I also feel like the design of the environments that I was in, right? And I was just in the tutorial, and I think they said the second level. So don't have a great, overwhelming grasp of how things are going to be. But just in those areas, I felt like wherever I was fighting something, I felt like I had plenty of room to move. I think you can actually kind
Yeah.
of see it in the trailer, right, where things are very wide, and that really helps you stay on the beat because you feel like you have time to kind of, circle around, line up the shot, do dashes in time with the rhythm, and so that really contributes to a sense of control, like I said. And the other cool thing is they have this score multiplier, which will go up. I think it is like 2, 4, 8, 16. Definitely ends at 16. And as you build up the multiplier, the music that you're listening to gets different instrumentation.
Oh,
And
cool.
so the song becomes more epic and empowering as you are playing well. And then once you get the 16 multiplier, that's when the vocals come in.
Oh, well,
And-
okay. I
yeah.
was thinking like a double bass drum or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, that's what. But the vocals really send it over the top, and it's awesome because they have world-renowned
Yeah.
metal singers in this, and in
You got to
the-
earn them.
Yeah, in the second level, it's the lead singer from Arch Enemy, and she's just crushing it. I mean, she's just sounding amazing, and so because I love metal so much, I really felt compelled. Like, damn, I genuinely don't want to drop this combo, this multiplier, because I'm enjoying just listening to this song as well. And the way that, like, narratively, I didn't get a strong grasp of what was going on, but Troy Baker is doing
What?
he's like, I think he's like playing the skull that your character is controlling, and he's talking about the relationship that they have. But he's giving like his like sort of southern drawl, like sort of Joel-esque VO.
Wow.
I'm not sure if he's the skull or not. I'm not 100% on that, but it felt like it had some gravitas, and then you get into the gameplay, and it's so smooth. And I actually think the way that they're doing the visuals for staying on the beat is like clear and unobtrusive, where like it's pretty easy to see like, oh, I need to hit it when the arrow is perfectly in the slot.
Right.
And like if you don't get it, it'll show you like, oh, you're just a little bit off. But then if you're right on, it'll be a nice bright orange as well.
Nice.
And so you've got this sword, which you can slash on the beat. You have this skull that like shoots something out that you can do on the beat. You get a shotgun. And what was neat is like when you're reloading the shotgun, it seemed like as you were reloading, you could like hit the R button on the beat, and that would count for it. Dashes count for your multiplier as well. But it was like the exact opposite experience that I had with BPM, where I was playing BPM and I feel like I was just frustrated, right? Like I wasn't having fun. Like it felt like a chore to kind of like stay in the rhythm in the way that it wanted me to. I felt like this was easing me into it, where in no time at all I was not struggling to stay on the beat. I was having a good time. It just felt very clean and tight and well designed. So this was one when the guy came up and he's like, "You got to go." I was like, it really bummed me out. I wanted to play a lot more of it.
Yeah. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really like that, the interaction with the combo.
Mm-hmm.
That seems really freaking cool.
Yeah, and it's something that felt very approachable. I think like a rhythm shooting game is something like
It sounds
easy.
very intimidating.
Yeah, very intimidating. I think it's easy to have reservations about. I had reservations about it. Don't. I think it is something that you will gravitate to. I mean, if you've ever enjoyed Doom and or Guitar Hero, I think you'll be
Right.
fine here.
I'm trying to look up info on the other one I just played because they said something and I was like, what? But I don't think I have it. Um, but it's Desto, which is from the Monument Valley devs. And I think they were saying something about it like coming first to Netflix. I don't know if you can fact check, Isla. Like there was like they were trying to rush through so much information. Given this Day of the Devs thing, it was like Netflix what? And then it was just more detail just kept flooding out
What's
of
it
their mouth.
called?
Desto,
Okay.
Desto.
I fixed the audio issue, by the way.
Oh, sweet. Um, but I didn't spell that wrong, did I? It's in the data divs. Pretty sure it's Desto. But anyways, yeah. So it's interesting because they wanted something that's a little bit more kind of or maybe Desta.
Desta.
Desta. That's it. Okay. So maybe I can find the info in. But anyways, yeah, they wanted something that's a little bit more character driven and introspective, and they kind of talked about how these characters are coming back home because their father just passed away, and they're dealing with not only his death but also just sort of that anxiety of having to be around people from their hometown that maybe they're not on the best terms with, or maybe they have bad memories about, and they talk about how when their father was with them growing up, they would take this ball and kind of toss this ball around to sort of like talk through things and process the things that they were going through, and and so they are kind of in this bedroom with the ball and talking, and then they say that like the gameplay sort of goes into this kind of like metaphysical state, like between like being awake and dreaming. And so it's sort of like you're going back and processing their anxieties and their memories, and the way it actually plays is like a turn-based strategy game, like on a grid, and so you choose the characters that are going to be in there, which will be usually one of the main characters, but then it could also be like one of their like favorite school teachers when they were growing up or whatever, and each of these different characters has different traits and abilities, so where like maybe they have like more shielding or they can buff another character or whatever. And then when you get into these arenas, like the arena that I played on was it was like a outdoor concert. There was like a stage with like a drum kit, and then there were some kids like behind the drums, and then you started in the other corner, and then you move your units, and kind of like a normal turn-based strategy game, like they have so many different action steps, so you can like move a certain distance and then maybe attack. But in order to attack, you actually have to pick up the ball, and it's kind of like a dodgeball game in a way.
I've figured out this Netflix thing.
Okay.
So, I guess Jeff was on Netflix's Geeked Week
Yeah.
stream and referred to it as a mix between Into the Breach, Hades, Inception, and Dodgeball. And then later in this article on Game Informer, it says the game will be available exclusively for Netflix members with no ads, extra fees, or in-app purchases.
Yeah. So however
So,
that works.
I don't know. That's all I have right now.
But then when you grab the ball, so yeah, the balls will be in different spots in the arena. You grab the ball, and then it's all touchscreen. What he showed me, I'm sure it works with the mouse as well. And that you would like pull back and then aim where the ball is going to go.
Yeah, they demonstrate that pretty well in the trailer here.
And and then it can it can bounce, it can ricochet off of multiple enemies and things like that. And so interesting, but that's about as like I didn't even get to see like a full I didn't even get to see like a full mission because of the time to go. So yeah, definitely curious to see more of it.
Visually very impressive.
This is so weird because it's listed on Steam here too, but it's not. You can't download it or anything.
Yeah, I think it's coming first to Netflix and then it's coming out to other things.
Weird.
I wonder how Netflix gaming is doing. Very curious.
I mean, they're just sort of getting started.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
The next one I saw is Roots of Pacha.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's
Pulling
the
for this one.
yeah, that's the Stone Age kind of Stardew Valley-esque game where they kind of describe like a lot of your progression as being essentially like inventing these things for humanity. And what's cool about the way that they did this compared to some of the others were like they were showing it like Bear and Breakfast, right? Bear and Breakfast was like just showing me the tutorial, whereas with this, they're like it's like no, we're jumping into late game, so they could just run around and show me
Yeah.
things. So
Cool.
so you're not just looking at kind of like an empty screen, but so like the first thing that they showed was just kind of like your typical like rows of crops and things, and they showed how like okay, like your regular water skin will like water one crop, and then like one that you develop later, you can hold the button down, and like the longer you hold the button, like the wider the area it will water will be, and then once you have an irrigation system in, then you can just kind of like turn on the water, and the water will flow around it, and then they're talking about how capturing and domesticating animals is one of the things that you do eventually, and so they had like the and you see in the trailer too. There's like this like little pet baby woolly mammoth walking around town, and then you can go up to it and you can pet it, or you can have it follow you as a companion. And then there are also different animals that you can ride. So we were riding.
Is it multiplayer?
Yeah, so we
Oh,
were playing
cool.
co-op, which was really nice. So
That's cool.
the developer was just like guiding me around. They had like a laptop there, and then I was playing on the main PC station. Um, and then you go outside of town, and they're showing like this bigger map where you basically go around and like you discover these different things. So like you can discover the different kinds of animals that are available out there, and you can discover the plants and the seeds. We went over and got like some wild corn, and they were kind of describing it's like okay, you get the wild corn,
Wow.
but then you need to like breed a few generations of it before it becomes like something that's like actually like edible part of your diet.
Gotcha.
And then they also showed like kind of domesticating, or maybe not just domesticating, but maybe like attracting one of the animals by playing like a little flute. And then we did like a little fishing mini game, which was very different than what you normally expect because they don't have like a rod and reel. They're just like gonna like smash it with like kind of like a stone hatchet kind of thing.
Oh, I see. They're not doing like spears. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so you basically had to like keep your cursor over the shadow of the fish, like you're watching it, and then if it looked like it was, it would give like a warning sign towards like, okay, move your cursor, like kind of get back a little bit, and then as soon as that went away, then you'd put it back on until finally like it kind of gave you the okay. It's like okay now, so there's still sort of that mix of patience. Yeah, there's the fishing a little bit, but there she got it with a spear. So yeah, that's again like building up your tools and all that. There's the flute, nice. So yeah, again, not a lot of time.
Yeah.
To play a very slow-paced, long-term type of game.
Yeah. Seems very multifaceted.
Yeah, yeah, and I
Cool.
love that there's like ostriches and just all kinds of different animals and stuff out
Yeah.
there to discover in the bigger
Did
world.
you get married?
No,
They show marriage in here.
they
It's
do show
cute.
marriage in here. Yeah.
Yeah. Stardew Valley is always a game that I wish I played a lot more of. And this is giving me super Stardew Valley vibes.
Yeah, I like
and
these
so
fish drying racks here too.
I really want to
I
try
think
it
they
out.
even reference Stardew Valley in this
They do.
trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
they
talk early Harvest Moon and Stardew Valley is what they say. Yeah.
Yeah, which I appreciate, just like saying it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Call it what it is, you
Yep.
know?
Yeah.
Smoke them if you got them.
Smoke 'em if you
Oh
got
wait,
'em.
okay, yeah. So the two of the Day of the Dead ones that kind of lowered a little bit for me. One of them I'd say lowered. One of them I'd say was just setting expectations a little different. It's still cool, but time flies.
Aw.
Oh, man.
Like I don't know for sure. Maybe it's here's the other thing about it too is these are the two games that I didn't have somebody there to talk to me about. So maybe I just missed the context in the lightning round of Day of the Devs.
Discredited.
But yeah, time flies
Maybe you're just not ready to confront your mortality.
So
not ready.
it gives me the like this. Do you remember Half Minute Hero, Ben? It was like the RPG where you went really fast, and you had to like complete a level within 60 seconds. It's kind of like that. So I don't know. Maybe there are more levels, and this is just the first one. It's
It
hard.
made me think of Minute, that game you played.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
another great one. Yeah, so they say it's based on region for some reason, but they're like 70. You have 77 seconds of life to go around and explore this house and interact with things, and then at the end of that time limit, then like wherever you're flying, your fly just very convincingly just drops dead out of the sky, even if it's just a pixel. But when you're going around and you're doing these things, there is, once you accomplish something, then this little notepad picks up it just says bucket list, and it will have little titles they're basically like what you would name achievements, and so like one of them just says like get drunk.
Yeah.
And so that's the wine glass. It's like, okay, I got to figure out like how to get drunk.
Yeah.
And if you fly into the main part of the wine glass, then obviously, as you saw there, it's like then there's an instant death. Start over. And it seems like you might have to like figure out the perfect run, because after I would die, then my bucket list reset. Like nothing was crossed off.
Oh, I thought dying was the whole
that's
point.
intense.
So, dying is part of the bucket list.
Right.
That's one of the things that you cross off. But it seems like you might have to figure out, like, okay, how to get drunk and how to get rich and how to do all these things. Oh, okay, so maybe you can manually change it.
I was wondering if you can manually change it, or
Yeah.
if it's set to where you are.
Interesting. And so, there's just a lot of exploration and, like, trying to figure out what you can interact with.
Apparently, Hong Kong has the longest life expectancy.
Interesting.
What's the life expectancy in Hong Kong?
85.29 years for both sexes.
Of flies?
Of humans.
Oh.
Years. They're converting years to seconds for the flies.
Oh,
Japan
okay.
is second.
In Hong Kong,
Got it.
flies
Wait, there's
live
the
for
bucket
82
list.
years.
It's right there.
Yeah, that's why I put this clip on. Japan is 85.
Yeah, so one was like go on tour.
So you're gonna be okay, Ben.
I'm gonna be okay.
One was like go on tour, and that's the one that they show where you like turn the record.
Yeah.
Make friends, read a book.
Yeah, that's not the impression that I got, because watching the trailer, it seemed like if you died in a way that crossed something off, like you would clear that thing. But yeah, it sounds like it's gonna be way more complicated than that.
Yeah. So, but it's at the same time, it's like all I've seen is that one bucket list. So that's the question I have is, okay, how much is there to it? Because as it is, it feels like I would finish this game in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe you will.
Maybe it's like a frog fractions thing where
Right.
you think.
Maybe there's more beyond this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely had a place where like you could go under the floor, and there was like a dark, like a basement down there, and I could push over a teddy bear, but it didn't do anything for my bucket list. I flew all around the inside of that place, and I couldn't find anything that was like related to the bucket list. And so that's interesting to me. It's like, okay, why do you have this secret area, and then it doesn't seem like, yeah. So.
I found a more updated list of life expectancies.
Oh, okay.
Hong Kong's still number one, but it's higher. It's 87.8 for females, 82 for males. Sorry, fellas.
But yeah, neat game. I think it just might be one of those things where it's like, okay, don't raise your expectations too much.
Yeah.
It might just be a quick little.
I mean, that's the biggest
hour-long
lesson of
thing,
life, I think, that you could ever learn.
Yeah.
Just don't raise those expectations,
And then the one of the data devs that I was intrigued by when we saw it in the trailer, and then a little disappointed by playing was Schim, the shadow jumping one. It just feels rough at this point.
Okay.
For one, because like I was getting into.
You don't have to stay in the shadows.
What's that?
Yeah, it's some bullshit.
You don't have to stay in the shadows.
Yeah, well, so here's the thing with that, because I tested that. So you can be limited. You can be outside of the shadows for like a second. So you can jump out and then jump back to it, so you can kind of like
But
cross
can
a
you
gap.
move forward?
You can't move other than jumping.
Okay, but I mean,
when
like,
you're
could
outside of the
you
shadows.
cheese some of the distance with jumping out and not being in the shadow? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, yeah, but that's the thing is like it. Sometimes you kind of have to do that.
Mm.
Oh, really?
So like,
So, but does it like burn you? You'll like die or something?
yeah, you could kind of see
I
it
guess
there.
that
So
they
it's like
like
you can't
slid. Yeah.
when you touch the lit area, there it like launched you, which is interesting. But otherwise, when you just like jump on the lit area, you can't move unless you jump again. Um,
Huh.
but if you stay there for, like I said, like a second and a half, then you're just gonna pop.
Okay.
So it's definitely part of it. But you see how like there's sort of like these foreground things,
Yes.
and I think that's the thing too. Is it's like I didn't have a guide on this one, so like maybe if I'm able to rotate more or whatever. But there are times where like I would have things in the foreground that would be blocking my view, and I couldn't figure out how to, to see where I was going.
I think it said L1 and R1 rotates.
Yeah, so maybe that was it. I thought I had pushed them, but maybe I pushed the
Okay.
wrong ones. But it was weird because it was like I would get to positions to where like how games will do that thing where like they drop things, like they make them disappear, but they're like they would disappear at weird times. So it was,
Wait, sorry, explain that again?
yeah, like how like foreground elements they'll have like they'll just make them disappear so that you can see through.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah. So I would see things like get cold, like those trees there. It's like the trees polygons are going away, but they would do it at weird times that
I see.
wasn't
Okay.
helpful.
Okay.
So yeah, it was just a little confusing.
Sure.
And
sure.
then just sort of like the mechanics of jumping from thing to thing didn't always feel the best. But again, I had like 6 minutes.
Right.
So figuring out where to go. But yeah, you have the humans that you can run. One of the things that was interesting with the bicycles is they have like the little the bells on them. And so like when that guy's running by and you're in the shadow of the bike, you can ring the bell. And the guy will be like, "What?"
Cool.
And he'll stop, and then you can jump into his shadow
That's cool.
and then keep going.
What was that noise?
Yeah. There's
What
also
was that noise?
there's another point where getting into this cat shadow, there was something with that where like it either ended the level or it like forwarded me in time to where like it was a different time of day.
Mm.
And I was in a different location, so it was like I had stuck with the cat for a long time or something. The night looks neat.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can kind of interact with certain
Whoa.
things like umbrellas. Like when you're in the shadow of an umbrella, then you can kind of like pull the umbrella back like a slingshot and sort of slingshot yourself to another location. So yeah, it may just be a thing I need more time with, but it just felt a little bit clunky to get around. In my first impressions there.
Sure.
Ben, talk to me about Nightingale.
Yeah, so this was a hands-off demo where I just got to talk to somebody about the game, but it was still very informative. So what Nightingale is it is very much a crafting survival game, sort of in the vein of like a V Rising or I believe a Valheim, and what's interesting about this game is the way that they're sort of tackling this genre, because he was like, with these games you sort of feel like you see everything after like 30 hours or something, and then you just restart to get a new seed for the world. The way that we want to fix that is you are literally going to different realms, right? And
so you're basically creating additional seeds, right?
Yeah, yes, but they're all like interconnected. So you use these cards to essentially craft a new realm, and depending on what cards you combine with one another, you will get completely different things. And you can see that in the trailer, right? So you'll get different enemies, different environments, different lighting, all of that stuff. And so you can go to like really wild and wacky places. And what's cool is you have this sort of like home base realm. I forget what he calls it, like a realm of respite or something like that, where you can travel to a new place and then kind of come back to this like base world. But you could be playing with your friends, right? And you could make a realm, and it's like, okay, I'm going to build a base here, and then you go off to this realm and you build a base there, right?
Interesting.
And so, obviously you'll have access to different resources for crafting depending on which realm you go to. And so coordinating with your friends to optimize that could be really fun, I think. And at least one of the people working on this is ex-BioWare, so they're really emphasizing sort of like narrative in the sense that like this is a well-developed world with its own sort of history and stuff. Like I'm trying to remember exactly what the story summary was, but I think it's something along the lines of, there's this city, Nightingale, and that's where you try to go, and you can actually see it in the trailer there. I believe it's where like the electricity is going through those giant towers, and this sort of warp system broke down and you got stranded. And so that's why you're crafting these portals, is you're trying to get back to this city, which I think is a pretty neat concept. And then I was like, so once you get back to the city, is the game over? And he said, no. He described it in terms of like seasons, like updates for games, where it's like, you'll get to the city, but eventually there will be more stuff to do beyond that, and you will unlock things in the city. In terms of details, I don't really know. It was pretty vague because this game is entering early access, so maybe that stuff hasn't even been figured out yet. I'm not sure. But
that's way more of a story than I expected.
Yeah.
I thought it would just be kind of like, surviving.
Right. Because at least in the survival crafting games that I've played, story is definitely not emphasized.
Yeah.
Right.
So having more of a narrative hook, and he said, it's not going to be as narrative driven as something like an RPG. But I believe he also mentioned like there will be some sort of quests for you to do and things like that. And the way that he was describing the world seemed genuinely intriguing. And, I wonder like if you'll get to piece together more of the world as you go through different realms and things like that. And so it honestly sounded really cool. Obviously hard to comment on anything beyond, the pitch that I was given. But I think the setup for it is interesting, and it seems like a genuinely clever take on, a genre that I feel like is kind of booming at the moment.
That makes me really curious, because I feel like the balance between quests and narratives and stuff in a game like this would be very hard to get right. Like,
yeah,
because if it's too much, you lose what's beautiful about these multiplayer survival games where you're just kind of like screwing around building forts with each other.
Yeah.
But if it's
with giant Tesla coils.
right, and then if it's not there, it's like, well, then you're not tying to the world, maybe.
So the counter that I would have to that, Isla, is maybe like on their end, they could kind of like plan all that stuff out, right? And be like, this is kind of how this world works. But maybe, you just get a sense visually through things, or like things aren't like directly told to you.
More lore.
But you still kind of get a sense of that this is like a real cohesive, fantastical world, just because they've thought about that in the background, right? There's sort of like a stylistic cohesion to things. I don't know.
Yeah. Like Vermintide, where it's like they're talking and there's a story, but you're always killing rat boys.
Yeah, but Vermintide has a vibe, you know what I mean? Like it's very singular in that, which is cool. The other thing that I should mention is, and you see this also in the trailer, is like, he said that we want to cater to different types of players, right? So maybe you're just sort of into this, like, I think he said like gas lamp sort of style, bowler hat style. I would say kind of steampunky vibe. Maybe you just want to dress up and hang out with your friends and really get into role playing. We want to cater to that type of player. But then, there are going to be the players that he called them hunters, I believe, and they'll have these monsters, right? Like literally giants, right? The sort of like elite monsters that you can go after and chase and take down. You can actually see it in the thumbnail there. So that's interesting and cool. That's actually something that I liked about V Rising and what I've played of that so far is, kind of having this bounty list of things to track down and hunt was super fun for me. So, yeah, sounds cool. I believe he said that we are going into early access sometime later this year, but I don't think I got anything more specific beyond that. So
Cool. Oh, they had it in Future Game Show?
Yeah,
Nice.
was it the same thing?
mostly. Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe they talked a little more about it, but yeah, you covered everything they said.
Cool.
Yeah, the creature design looks
Yeah, it's
awesome.
Yeah, that's one of the
Yeah.
things I've really been appreciating. The next thing I played is Star Trek Resurgence.
Yeah, very curious about this.
Yeah, so this is from some ex Telltale devs.
It has Telltale written all over
Yeah,
it.
it does. In every way, really.
Here's some IGN first.
Some
footage.
IGN footage. Hopefully that's been released publicly to somebody at some point. But
I
anyway,
mean, it's on YouTube.
sure.
I'll find something else.
It was a couple
I'm
months
friends
ago.
with Mitch
It
at
was a couple
IGN.
months
We'll
ago,
be
at
fine.
least. But anyways,
Yeah, you'll be fine. Everything's from 2 months ago. I have no new footage on YouTube.
but yeah, I was given a demo from the lead writer. He was telling me about it, and it's the USS Resolute. They're on a peacemaking mission. There's these two sides. They're on the brink of war, it's interesting because you actually like the way the demo is set up is like you end up cutting back and forth between these two characters. So there's this engineer who's in the scene here, whose name is Carter Diaz, he's ending up having to do like a lot of kind of methodical things, like going out and working on shields or going out and setting probes and things, but still has a lot of commentary and a lot of just sort of like wanting to like work your way up through the ranks in Starfleet and that kind of thing. And then there is Jara Rydek, who is the first officer, and she is on the away team with Ambassador Spock. Spock is there.
Okay. Pulling out the big guns.
To try to negotiate some kind of peace treaty between these two sides. And
Mitch, I think Mitch is in chat and said that it's fine.
it's fine. Thanks, Mitch.
See, I told you.
So you have this scene here, which was in my demo as well, where you walk through. You just get the sense of like just being able to walk through the starship, and then you have some dialogue and things, and like a lot of the dialogue is really, it's like tonal. It's like trying to set up the kind of approach and character that you want to have, like how you want to, like, are you going to be like more of somebody who wants to follow orders, or somebody who wants to speak your mind and that kind of thing. And then if we get into see here, like orders are orders, stop complaining. So it's like very different approaches to where that dialogue's going to go. And then the second scene, which was like probably the most interesting scene to me, is like when they're on the planet, when you're dealing with these two factions, and like one, it's got like these kind of like hard, like bone-faced kind of people, and the other one is a little bit more aristocratic, and they kind of like these different colored blotches on their faces, and I guess they're like essentially like trying to work out like who is going to be in charge of these mines.
Are you referring to these blotches?
No.
Okay, because that's a Trill symbiote.
But they had names for all. I didn't note down.
Pushes
all the
up
names.
glasses.
Yeah.
Are you referring to these?
Yeah. So this Vulcan commander is like getting on your case, and so you have different ways to respond to that too. But yeah, when you're going through this negotiation, it's just this really, because you're there, kind of on the side with Spock, but then like the Queen sort of calls you out and starts, asking you, for what you think about this because of Jara's past and what's gone on with her people versus what's going on between these two factions, and just kind of like, whether these people who feel like they've been oppressed for a long time, should they, is their retribution deserved, or do they need to find a way to settle things with the other side? And so there's like a lot of tension there, and it actually like it feels really good. And I think that's one of the things where like this kind of like decision-making, choice-based conversation trees is something that I think really fits Star Trek really well.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of like dealing with like these ethical questions.
Yeah.
And dealing with again like these different political factions, and then at the same time these sort of interpersonal relationships among the crew, and like, okay, where is this character wanting to go? And then the last scene that we did, we were like flying a shuttle through like this asteroid belt and laying probes to sort of try to figure out what was going on, because there's like this interference with the ship, like keeping it from going into warp drive, and trying to get to the bottom of that. And so it's interesting because the flying mechanics weren't that complex, but at the same time, it's like, well, the flying mechanics are sort of there, again, because you're just an engineer doing this mundane job, right? And so it's like, it's the conversation that you're having while you're flying that kind of matters a little bit more. So it's interesting. I will say that it is rough, and he acknowledged that it's rough. That like there's just like a lot of kind of strange, glitchy things happening. Like the hair at times, the lighting on it would be so weird that it looked like their hair was like glowing bright white, or like there were like
it's just a strange
speckles,
alien
kind of speckles and stuff around like
interference.
their eyes. A lot of like little framiness, and like even like facial expressions sometimes that look a little weird. So I think. Yeah, again, as I say, like a telltale game in every way.
Yeah.
It's a little janky looking, but the writing and the storytelling and the kind of like those moments of like, how do I want to approach this in a limited time
Very
frame?
cool.
Yeah.
Very
They
cool.
just glow because they're part of the Q continuum, and they have power split.
But yeah, it is supposed to be out this year. So that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I was like, well, I see it looking that rough. I don't know
Do
how
you
much it's going to
know
improve.
if it is going to be a full game, or is it going to be episodic?
They didn't get into that, but my impression is it's a full game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Because I feel like the episodic nature, not only reminiscent of Star Trek itself, right, but is very good for these types of Telltale games. Allows you like a good stopping point sometimes. So.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I could see that working. But I think even if it's not episodic in the terms of how it's released,
Sure.
the way that we were cutting back and forth between scenes,
Gotcha.
like an A storyline and a B storyline.
Red Sky
Kind
has informed it is not episodic.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It is one complete, large story that will be entirely available upon release. We love episodic, but for us, it's time for something different. That's from their Twitter account. Thank
Nice.
you,
Okay.
Red Sky.
So, yeah. So I'm interested for sure. And I think the story again is where you want to look for it. And then the last one for today is F1 2022, which I can't share a
Bloodworth
whole lot
classic.
of.
We saw this today at the Damiani and I reacted to this today,
Yeah.
and we were talking about you the whole time.
Bloodworth, as somebody who's just now trying to get into cars, I'm like, for the very
one?
first time, like genuinely excited about this. Give me
It's
the deets,
Codemasters.
man. I don't know
F1
anything
games
about
from
F1.
Codemasters.
but
Yeah, that's probably it. I don't know what.
I
don't know what that
I
video
only
is.
want to watch
Yeah, me
footage if it's
neither.
IGN.
Oh my gosh, it's 23
It's 23 minutes long. I don't know.
But yeah, so it's weird because like show floor is not like really a good place to get a handle on a game like this.
I feel like that applies to so many things we've talked about.
Oh, no, wait. We saw F1 Manager. Never mind.
Oh yeah, it's a different game that they're putting out.
V different.
But they had a cockpit set up, there on the floor. They also had a VR setup, but I didn't do that. I just did a regular screen. But it's funny because like the F1 style cockpit setup, like you're almost like leaning back, like my feet were like up here kind of thing where the pedals, and there was just so much force feedback on the wheel. So that's what I mean.
In an actual F1 car, are you angled like that? Like, is it?
Yeah,
is that accurate
I
too?
think
Okay.
I think that's what it's supposed to be designed. Yeah, you can see like you're like just sitting right on the track basically, and yeah, and the wheel looked just like that. And so there was a lot of feedback. There's a lot of like pull that you had to do, and like really like working my feet to push those pedals. And we were on Miami, and so they had me do like kind of like a time trial to warm up, and then a race. But it was all on casual settings, and still had to
Don't they know who
to
you
pay
are?
attention and brake pretty hard to get around those corners.
It looks good, and it looks like it has a very convincing sense of speed.
Yeah, and that's one of the things is like I think F1 is just like one of those series that's sort of winning in silence. It's like it is doing some very advanced, very cool things. It feels very good to play. It's a matter of like, you have to get in deep. And I think that's why they're talking about some of these casual settings. So they're saying that like, I guess there's like some shows right now, some streaming shows that are like really getting people into the sport. And so they're seeing
link
like a
me
big
then,
pickup in
please.
players from that.
Yeah, please.
And so they have a more casual mode. They have this for that casual mode. They have a more adaptive AI.
Cool. This is encouraging.
So it'll kind of go along to your skill level, and so they're trying to demo that, but I don't know how to demo that in one race.
Yeah.
I went from third to first. I managed to get some nice overtakes in there.
Nice.
And then the other thing that they showed that was new is that they have surprisingly added supercars into the mix. So they have like 8 different vehicles that are more, road style cars like Aston Martin and Mercedes and Ferraris. And
Maybe I can race the car that I actually raced in Las Vegas, Blood.
maybe.
What did you race in Las Vegas?
I believe it was a Pista 488.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't think
It
that one's
was
in there.
I just looked up how much F1 cars cost.
An F1 car costs?
Yeah. Do you know? Let Ben guess if you already know.
There's
Well,
there's not a good way.
the
average-
it's
average.
an investment.
The car that I drove, which not an F1 car, but was I think $540,000.
Yeah, that's
I mean, development
way
on an
low.
F1 car.
Way low.
Yeah, there's millions because you're redeveloping the car as the season goes on.
average cost $12.2 million.
Yeah.
We could put that on the company card.
We couldn't even buy the steering wheel is 50 grand. Apparently on
Yeah.
average.
Oh yeah, the steering wheel is insane.
Blood.
The amount of
What?
stuff that's going on in that steering wheel.
What even is the Halo? That's $17,000.
Oh, the Halo. Yeah, the Halo is the thing that protects the driver in a rollover.
The rear wing, 85,000.
Yeah, and you can blow that thing off in no time.
You can blow that thing off in no time. That's $85,000.
I would
Anyway.
feel so bad if I got in a real F1 car and crashed it.
That's
You
what
would-
the professionals
You'd be
do.
feeling that for longer than you could live to pay it back. Is
Yeah.
what you'd be doing.
Yeah.
You don't get in a real F1 car without
Patreon.com/easy-allies.
a team and a
Patreon.com.
sponsor. So yeah.
Heavens to Murgatroyd! I had no idea. Yeah, well, look at that steering wheel. There are more buttons on that thing than
Yeah,
a-
you have
than
to
a
adjust so many
console.
different things. Yeah.
Jeez Louise.
Blood, I know we've really thrown you off rails here, but a genuine question, because like I said, I am legitimately interested. Like I want to play this game, especially since I've been having such a good time whenever I just dip into Gran Turismo for a little bit. But my concern, and something I really like about Gran Turismo 7, as somebody who doesn't know a lot about cars, I feel like it's kind of educating me. I know nothing. I know nothing about F1. Do you feel like, and not only in terms of like gameplay and assisting you and helping you drive, but is it a good way to learn about the sport itself?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, because because when I first started having to review F1 games, I was in the same boat. Like
Okay.
I've got no idea. I just liked the rain, the rain system that they had.
Okay.
And from there, yeah, I learned about the sport, and then I, got into watching races and stuff for a few
Cool.
years and really following, the developments and things. And like now I'm a little bit out of it. So like now there's like that's the thing. It's an ongoing engineering developing sport.
Sure.
And so
That's
the things
cool.
that they're doing this year are totally different than the things that they were doing 5 years ago.
Right.
Like even talking about the halos, like those weren't in there when I first started reviewing F1 games.
Which part is the halo?
It's that round
This
part right
round
there
thing
above
in
the
front of
driver's
them?
head.
Oh,
Yeah, that
Crazy.
wasn't there a few years ago. That's a newer safety thing.
he's got a battery there. Are these electric now?
Yeah, that's the thing. They're putting more and more electrics in
Wow.
them, and and so the sound of the cars has changed drastically in just the past 10, 12 years.
That's cool. I didn't know they were doing electric ones. Oh, this guy's only got 9% 8% battery now.
Oh yeah, and then battery too. There's another thing that that's not that recent, but it was new when I started getting into it. Is they have energy recovery system, and that's probably
Oh.
what that battery that you're looking at is.
Yeah.
And so
Well, hybrid
when
cars
you
have that
brake,
too. Yeah,
it
regenerative
captures the energy from braking
regenerative
and
braking.
charges that battery. And
That's so cool.
And then you use that battery kind of like a turbo button.
Hybrid cars have that.
Yeah.
Regenerative braking.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's.
But I mean,
very
that
different.
came from this. That the
Wow.
F1 had it first, and
That's
then
cool.
they were able to start putting it into consumer cars. And that's the thing. Is like, while it all is like insane amounts of money and seems entirely superfluous, it's like it's car engineering, and it's people pushing, not just to drive the best, but to like make the most aerodynamic and efficient machine.
There was a weird moment when I was driving back from snowboarding this summer where I stopped for gas because I have a plug-in hybrid, and I had 8 miles of electric charge suddenly.
Mm-hmm.
But like I was like, I didn't charge it. Where did this come from? And then I realized it was because I'd been going downhill for like 100 miles.
Right.
That it had charged itself while it was doing that. So that was neat. So yeah, I didn't know that came from F1. That's cool.
Yeah, and the other thing that I was talking about with that kind of ties into your question, Ben, is one of the reasons that they brought the supercars in there is, yes, it can be a palate cleanser or whatever, but it's part of trying to expand and give you a better sense of a race weekend experience,
I see.
which I think is something that like F1 does in a way that like no other like big racing series do. Is that if you're going out there on more authentic settings, it's like you don't just do a race, right? You go out there and you have practice runs where your team is doing research, and you have these different goals of like, okay, research goals, we want you to go out and do this or that so that we can get data on how this new wing is performing or how the tires are performing, et cetera, et cetera. And you can go out and practice as much as you want in that practice session to just get the lay of the land, and then move on to the next thing. But then you also have qualifying sessions, and so you can get into there, and then the better you do the qualifying sessions, and the better your starting grid is. And then and then you have different options for like how authentic you want the race to be, because something like I probably would only do a couple of times while playing a new F1 game would be a full length race, but a full length race is literally like 40 to 50 something laps, right? So most of the time I probably do it on like 25% or something along those lines. But it's about that. It's about that endurance and that long haul, and and part of that is knowing when to change your tires, knowing when to to take those pit stops. Yeah.
It's just crazy how far he turns the wheel into it. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and conserving fuel as part of your strategy, and so there's a lot of that kind of thing that goes into it. So with the supercars, one of the things that will happen when you're on a track in a race day is like, yes, you're there for the F1 race, but then they have all of these other races that are going on with different formula things where they have like, when I was at the race in Austin, they had like all of these like owners of Ferrari dealerships, racing the Ferraris, and so there's a lot of different things like that going on. Just
So it's like race day is like just a huge celebration of cars in general.
yeah, there's a lot of activities before the main event and like concerts and stuff going on.
Neat.
Yeah, and very very expensive merchandise.
Is F1 like
T-shirts that cost you like $50.
Is it like elite racing? Is it like just the top of the top?
Yeah. And it's also like, kind of secretly like, one of the biggest, most watched sports in the world.
We have a question from chat. Gotham Odyssey asks, is there split screen multiplayer?
There probably is. There usually is. But I don't know specifically about 2022, but there usually is. One of the things that was also interesting with the supercars, the handling is very different. And so you can feel the difference right away. Like, doing a Ferrari feels like driving a boat compared to one of these things. And so you do have to take the turns differently. You do have to give more time to brake. It actually feels kind of slow, even though you're driving a Ferrari.
Yeah.
But these tracks are designed for F1 cars. They go way, way faster.
Right.
And what was also interesting is alongside the regular driving line, there was like a blue driving line. There was like an alternate line to where because you can't drift an F1 car, but you can drift a Ferrari. And so the blue line is sort of like a, suggested way, like, okay, if you're going to like drift around this corner, this is an alternate like route kind of for you to take and do that. Which I didn't get to play with that much, especially because, again, I was in the cockpit and just like learning how to manage, the brake pedals and the crazy steering wheel and everything. But
So you had a full-on like actual physical cockpit?
yeah, it's like a seat that like you have to like just like a car seat, like slides back and forth, and then the same thing with like the steering wheel. They had to like slide it up to the right length from my arms.
Well,
Wow.
that's the thing that's killing me is do I need that to get the authentic experience?
Those rigs cost a lot
That's
too.
a lot. Yeah.
Do I
The home rig
am I
is
okay
very
with just a
expensive.
controller?
Yeah, just use a controller. It's fine. That's why I
I
play.
say buy it, Ben. What's 20 G's, man? Buy it.
Hey, you know what? You just got to put things in perspective. That's a lot cheaper.
That's a lot cheaper than
exponentially
F1
cheaper
yeah, that's
than buying a real F1 car.
way
It's
cheaper.
practically free.
It's a lot
You
cheaper than
basically
just
have
going to a
to.
race.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
800% value.
The Ben Dark Knight says the show on Netflix is called Drive to Survive.
Oh, so it's a show on Netflix. Okay, I thought it was like some Twitch stream that they were doing. I say, all right, let me add that to the queue.
Add
Yeah.
it to the queue.
Add it to the queue. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
When is this
games,
coming out?
These games feel so good. I'm gonna guess it's gonna be August or something. I don't know. Off the top of my head.
2022, I hope.
Yeah. It's soon.
It seems like the performance is just rock solid. Just
Yeah.
looking at the footage.
Yeah. It tends to be. And then there's a lot of, like I said, like the rain is one of the things that got me into this series because it just
June 28th, apparently.
June 28th. Oh, so this month. Yeah, they're going earlier this year.
Unless
Nice.
Red Sky's pulling my chain over here.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
But yeah. So again, like you have to have the right tires on for
Mhm.
for the wet, and then
Oh, correction. July. Wait.
July.
July 1st, but early access is the 28th.
Yeah, it's an EA thing.
Yeah, it's an EA thing.
But yeah, so like you'll have times
June
where, like,
32nd.
and Gran Turismo is doing this now too. But like when the track is drying, like you'll start to see the drying
Oh,
line. and
that's
that kind of
really
thing.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where the cars are going over, and then similarly, you get the rubber pellets, the clag and stuff that comes off of the wheels.
Oh.
And that builds up on the outsides where the cars
And like
aren't
you
driving.
can actually see that on the track.
You can see and feel it.
Oh,
like,
wow.
when you're driving over it.
Flag?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
That's kind of like a colloquial term that some of the commentators use, but yeah.
Oh.
There's another term for it that I was like not pulling out of my head right now, but yeah, just like chunks of small little bits of rubber, because so much of it, they go through multiple tires.
Maybe an inappropriate question just for what it's going after, but we talked about it on Frame Trap. Something I like about Gran Turismo is, it's not just race. It's, you have races, and then you have licenses where you're learning, and then you have missions, which are kind of little challenges, and you're building up your car collection. So I feel like there's like a good amount of things to do. In this, is it, pretty much just authentic races?
Yeah, there are different like types of modes. Like there's like a more standard career where it's pretty much just racing, and then they have a more kind of like more personality based kind of thing, to where like they kind of follow you as a driver, and you do like interviews with the press and stuff in between races. And
Nice.
Kind of have rivalries and stuff going on.
Cool. I would be into that.
Yeah, and then kind of like work your way up through different teams.
Clag is the colorful phrase used by former NBC Sports and Speed TV announcer David Hobbs in the U.S. to describe the buildup of marbles and debris off the racing line of a circuit. See also blistering, graining, and marbles. So those are the terms for it, if you still care about that.
What was the original term that you said?
Clag.
Clag.
C-L-A-G?
Yeah.
Clag.
Yeah, David Hobbs was a commentator for a long time, and he was also a racer back
I
in
licked
the day.
the mic.
What's that?
Huh?
You licked the mic?
I licked the mic.
So
That's the ending then. We gotta stop it there.
just this is my own curiosity. So you saw a Formula One event in Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
And did you just go out of your own interest?
No, that was Codemasters brought me out there.
Sweet.
Me and Rich Brown, we got to do that.
Sick,
It was pretty cool. There was another part of the weekend that we didn't get to do, where there was like not really an F1 car, but it was like a ride along, like extended F1 car to like give you a feel for it. But that part got canceled.
Oh, damn.
But yeah, we did. Did have kind of a chance to go into like we had the kind of like the private box that we were in. That was on like one corner, but then we also got to go into Pirelli's suite for a little bit and watch a bit of things from there. And we
How'd you get into such a ritzy deal?
And then we also got into the Lotus pits. We got a tour of their pits.
What?
So it's
High roller Bloodworth over here.
but that was just part. That was just Codemasters, giving us the experience essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And that was with some of the team at 47 as well.
Blood, I think I'm going to get F1 2022. I think I'm going to do it.
Nice.
Full cockpit.
Can you imagine my
Yes,
wife
I
coming
could- I
home and
completely
me
can.
sitting there with my cats?
Hi, sweetheart.
She'd be like, "You've never mentioned F1 to me in your entire life."
She walks in, sees you in this full, huge F1
I've
race,
got a helmet on.
And you say, guess what?
Guess
I
what?"
saved us $11 million.
What was interesting too, Isla, is like that was actually the first year that F1 was back in the U.S. And the first year at Austin. So it was really interesting being there, because there was so much stuff that was just unfinished, like grounds that was just like dirt where they hadn't laid down grass and stuff like that. And again, it's like one of the again about like giving people like a race day experiences. Like one of the things I told them, it's like, yeah, your game needs to have more helicopters, because there are helicopters freaking everywhere. They had a helicopter parking lot for all of these rich people who come into the race.
I thought it was
in
just
their
to get like
helicopters.
shots of the track.
No,
It was just fucking rich people.
it's just rich people coming
is
into the
so
racetrack with their
funny.
helicopters.
I guess perhaps my perception of the fan base for F1 was off base, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. What was your perception?
Not the ultra rich, I guess.
Oh, it's definitely a very high money thing.
My
I mean, there are
experience
a lot
with
of people
racing
that aren't.
was
but,
in my small town in Wisconsin, and it was not the ultra rich.
well, you remember what Iron Man 2 had that like
Yeah.
Monaco scene or whatever. Like that's
that's 2, I think.
yeah, that's a set point on the race calendar, and just like it was in the movie, you know, it's like
Chad's telling me I'm thinking of NASCAR.
tons
Okay.
of celebrities there all the time.
Hey, no shade on NASCAR either. No
Mhm.
shade on any of this. This is interesting and cool to me.
I was watching some NASCAR crashes on YouTube like a week or two ago, and it is crazy some of the crashes that they've had in
It
that
looks
sport.
terrifying.
Oh
It
yeah,
is
some of the
t-
stuff they have
yeah.
in F1 is nuts, too.
Really? Yeah, dude, it's like death-defying.
Monaco, I'm informed, has a yacht parking lot beside the track.
Yeah. Yeah, Yas Marina has a lot of yachts as well.
Blood, have you
Yeah.
ever sprayed champagne on an adoring crowd?
I have not, but again, that's something I've witnessed. So
Oh.
that's something they do after every
He's been sprayed
race.
on by.
Blood, I'm pretty hyped on this. Did you play 2021?
I don't think I played 2021. I know we did impressions of one recently. But I think it might have been 2020.
Okay.
You've abandoned your boy here, Blood.
Well, like I said, and I even told them this again. Like if there's any game that
How is that
feels
pick
like
I not
work,
Yeah,
terrified?
I was just thinking that.
it's
It's this,
this.
yeah.
Because it's like you like will put hours and hours and hours and hours, and then like, okay, well I've completed one race weekend, you know,
Right, yeah.
because you have to put in the time, you have to learn, you
Yeah.
have to like get it down, and then like I said, it's like if you're wanting to do like that more authentic experience where you're doing all the qualifying sessions and everything,
Yeah, for sure. I understand that. Yeah.
yeah, and so it takes a lot, and then there's like I want to say like 20 or so races in a season, so just getting through one season
Chat-
can be daunting.
Chad is saying that you watched your friend Snoop Dogg spray the champagne on people. Now I'm just
I
picturing
don't know
that.
how much Snoop Dogg goes to the races. No idea.
I would
don't
believe it,
know.
though.
He
Oh,
does
yeah.
whatever he wants to.
For sure.
He's Snoop.
You know, Snoop Dogg has a wine out. Did you know that?
A what?
Yeah.
A wine. He's a wine.
Oh, a wine.
He's like a wine brand.
I am not at all shocked by that.
Yeah.
He has his own brand of weed
Mhm.
that he was handing out in front of the cops at the LA concert at Viacom before weed was legal here. And they were just like, whatever, it's Snoop Dogg.
Right.
Fun concert.
Remember when he was like on camera smoking when the
Yeah,
Battlefield
yeah,
game was
yeah.
revealed?
Yeah. Just big old joint in his mouth.
Oh boy.
Cool guy. I like him.
Do you know the story about like him and streaming?
No.
I think he definitely did it once, but he might have done it multiple times. I was learning about this a long time ago, like maybe a couple of years ago, maybe not that long. I don't know. Where he like would stream, he like streamed Madden, and he rage quit, but he just left the stream on
Yeah, I remember this.
for
Yeah.
like
Oh, yes, I heard
yeah,
about this.
like days. I think.
Yeah, it was like 36 hours or some crazy thing.
Forgot to end the stream.
yeah.
love
Chat, we have
that.
2 more games to talk about, but we can't tell you about them yet, so we're gonna have to do that after we go offline.
Hang on.
Well, hang on.
I'm doing something important.
Oh, Kate Bush.
She's at the ready.
Da-da-da-da.
Hang on, I can get Kate Bush in there. Oh shit, what have I done?
God,
Do you think Kate Bush is into F1?
Yeah.
it could be.
That'd be cool.
That's
Dude,
what I'm saying.
she should
like,
do a
the
sequel
People, like everybody is at these things.
running around that track.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, wouldn't that be cool?
That'd be sick.
And then, like, during the interview, why did you do this? I'm really into F1.
Ben Moore got me into F1.
I'm a big Easy Allies.
Big Easy Allies fan.
I enjoy hearing their impressions about hardcore racing simulators.
It's Snoop Dogg.
I think the E3 loopiness is kicking in.
Oh, it
Oh,
done
yeah.
it done been kicked
Somehow
in.
F1 just got
Yeah.
it going.
No, I'm joking around, but, like, I'm being 100% serious. Like, this seems awesome.
Chat wants you to say dragon for some reason.
Dragon.
How many
There you go,
dragons have we
chat.
seen? We had
Why
that's
do they
a
want me
bet.
to say
I
dragon?
don't know.
Do I say dragon weird?
Dragon.
Dragon.
I don't
Dragon.
dragon. I don't think so.
Dragon's Den.
The other person who asked just said he said it. The fuck are you doing, not a rake? What's going on?
Oh my gosh.
All right.
They're
Bye.
gonna like spit together some AI thing.
Join us tomorrow for Xbox.
No,
Xbox.
don't join us.
My dress is falling off. Xbox.
Dragon.
We're hoping for Dragon's Dogma 2. Maybe that's why they wanted to say Dargan.
I assumed it was Dragon's Dogma 2, but then why not just
Yeah.
make me say Dragon's Dogma 2?
Too powerful. It's too powerful.
Isla, you gonna get into F1?
Well, I'm interested in cars more than I used to be.
Hey, what? We're just getting older, I think.
Well, I was doing some car shopping last year, and so that got me interested in
Got
cars.
it.
But now I have a new car, and so I don't have to be interested in that anymore.
No, get into it.
All right. Sophia, we're moving the couch out, and I'm putting in a cockpit.
You're saving money.
We're saving money. We're saving 12 mil. on
Xbox PC gaming show
this.
tomorrow.
Xbox PC Gaming Show. Xbox at 10 a.m. PT, I believe.
Blah.
Blah. And
Why'd
then
they have to go so early? There's nothing happening.
95
I'm so
minutes long,
mad.
and then PC Gaming Show after that, and
It'll be
New
2
Blood.
hours, you know.
Yeah, that's going to be 3 or 4 hours long, but New Blood's at it. So I'm excited for Gloomwood, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
That's weird because we already saw them at Devolver.
Shut up.
New Blood wasn't a Devolver.
He's
Running.
teasing
It's a running
me.
joke. It's a running
He's
joke.
teasing
Running joke.
me.
Running joke.
I learned, I got some bad intel on Fextra Life that New Blood was gonna be.
Hey.
And then Capcom on Monday.
Yeah.
Yep. The big one.
Except for they said that they're only talking about announced games.
Yeah. So we're gonna
hoping
get. Yes.
they're announcing everything tomorrow at Xbox and then
Yes.
diving into it.
And
Right.
by everything we mean specifically
Dragon's
Right.
Dogma
one
Yeah, I don't know what
thing.
Capcom's definition of announced is anymore because Street Fighter 6 at the Summer Game Fest was previously listed as unannounced game, but we
Unannounced
knew that it
game.
had been announced. So I guess maybe they just didn't want to announce what it was going to be. I don't know.
I love how we've whipped ourselves into a frenzy, and we are convinced that we are seeing Dragon's Dogma.
Yeah, we
Based off
very
little,
That's a good
very
very
little.
little evidence. My legs are really dusty
Mm.
from the park today.
Park dust.
Park dust.
I think we're gonna need to move this
dust.
stream into just chatting if we're.
This is a special event. All right. We will see you tomorrow, chat. Tomorrow morning, bright and early. Bee boo. Bye.